religion, government, or national security. Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
And good evening. Welcome to the broadcast on this Friday night, January 16th, 2026. Joining me tonight is going to be Olivier Melnick, Mike Lindell, who's running for governor, if you haven't heard. Mike Lindell, Olivier Melnick, David Pyne. Who else am I missing? Dan Eastman. Is that everybody? I think that's everybody. All right. Olivier Melnick, we're going to talk about that verse. I think it's in Revelation 2 and 3. Synagogue of Satan. That verse is often used to castigate all Jews. Don't you know they're of the synagogue of Satan? No, that's not what those verses are saying. We'll put them back in context tonight, and you can know what the context is and stop people from using it to promote anti-Semitism. We're also going to talk tonight to David Pyne about what's going on in Iran. Mike Lindell, as I said, who's running for governor. And then what about what we're told is millions upon millions of dollars being put into suitcases, dragged through the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport and flown on airplanes, I think, out of the country. Don't you have to take those digital payments, transfer them into dollars, and then take those dollars and then pack them in those suitcases and ship them? Wouldn't someone catch that? Wouldn't that flag somewhere a report? But apparently it didn't, and this has been going on for a long time. Or does that mean there are people in places inside banking that knew this was going on, not just within government? We'll ask those questions tonight to Professor Dan Eastman. Before we get started, wow, the interview last night with Ray is going viral. If you didn't catch it, you can find it now at worldviewtube.com. The interview with the former MEK fighter, Ray from Germany. Again, worldviewtube.com. All right, before we get started, remember, we are brought to you by you. Please go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. You'll find them all there. You know, I take these great products every day. My Bella Grace, my Gatatana, my Numi, okay? I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on it tonight. You know these products. They're great products. I use them each and every day. I suggest you do that. Get your satellite phones, your solar generators, your bulletproof backpacks at worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. If you want to stay healthy, I suggest you do Gatatana, the phytoplankton. One scoop, the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. And there are clinical trials on this. Feeds your cells down to the mitochondria. You know I do the Bella Grace every day with the collagen, the cat's claw, the astaxanthin. My hands aren't cracked and bleeding. I haven't taken Pepcid since December of 2023. My hair growth has been amazing. And I look marvelous. So that's I think that's Billy Crystal. So check it out. There you go. MelissaHouseBG.com or worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Make sure you have all of your medical kits and emergency kits and antibiotics on hand if there's a crisis. Of course, Swish for Life. That's the Numi with the Gatatana. There you go. And then we also have worldviewwater.net. Drink good, clean water. Worldviewwater.net. So these are all ways you can help us, and I think help yourself at the same time. Worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. All right. Now, my first guest tonight is Olivier Melnick. I recorded this interview with Olivier yesterday. I want to bring it to you right now. Again, don't forget, we got Mike Lindell coming up tonight as well. But here's an interview I recorded yesterday with my buddy, Olivier Melnick. Watch this. Joining me now is Olivier Melnick. Are you ready for this, folks? Who really belongs to the synagogue of Satan? Look at this headline. Who really belongs to the synagogue of Satan? We see that reference twice in the book of Revelation. And of course, it's talking about Jews that are persecuting, in a lot of cases, Jews who've come to Yeshua or Messiah. And the Lord himself refers to them as the synagogue of Satan. But that doesn't mean that every Jew is a synagogue of Satan any more than John 10 that refers to so-called pastors that are hirelings. Therefore, every pastor is a hireling. No, it's a classification that has to be applied only to those who meet the definition by their behavior, their theology, their doctrine, theology, theos, the study of God. But isn't that an interesting article titled by our Jewish Messianic friend, Olivier Melnick, who really belongs to the synagogue of Satan? His website, by the way, where you can read that is shalominmessiah.com, shalominmessiah.com. Olivier, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Hey, Brannon, Happy New Year. I think this is our first for 2026.
It is. Happy New Year to you. All right, so what led you to write this book, this article, I should say? Who belongs to the synagogue of Satan? Who really belongs?
What's interesting is that in your opening monologue about the article, you already taken a position that is one of two positions that, you said this talking about unbelieving Jews, but really, I don't often do that, but I'm going to start by disagreeing with you.
Are you really? Tell me why.
In love. Well, let me explain. I'll get to that in a second. The first thing we need to understand is, first of all, you mentioned there twice. The synagogue of Satan is mentioned twice in
Revelation.
Revelation 2:9, and I know your deeds. 2:9. I know your tribulation and your poverty, but you are rich, and the blasphemy by those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. And 3:9. Behold, I'm giving up those of the synagogue of Satan, those who say that they are Jews and are not, but lie. So here we have those two instances. The word synagogue in the Bible, synagoge in Koine Greek, when you think synagogue, you think, okay, place of worship for Jewish people, modern days. But back in the days, all the word really meant, the plain vanilla meaning of the word is assembly or gathering. As a matter of fact, in James 2, verse 2, it says, if in your assembly, and they're using the word synagogue. So it really doesn't mean a place of worship. It became that because all the usage that they had in the Bible, 56 of them in the New Testament in the Greek, plus the two in Revelation, all those ended up describing an institutional gathering of Jewish people with Jewish leaders and Jewish teachers. So over time, it became the place of worship, kind of like the church for the Christians, synagogue for the Jews. Back then, it did not really mean that quite yet. Now, this discussion here about the synagogue of Satan, this assembly of Satan, this gathering for Satan, is describing one of two groups, one that you mentioned and another one possibly that actually I think might be a better in the context. You mentioned Jewish unbelievers, very common belief among a lot of good people like yourself, Christians who believe that this is unbelieving Jews who are pushing back against the Messianic Jews of the time, like myself today. We believe in Jesus as the Messiah. We follow his teaching. The unbelieving Jews, unregenerated Jews are saying, no, this is not good. You're not Jewish anymore. All the different arguments that they have. And thus, they're described as the synagogue of Satan. That's one possibility. The other possibility is a group of Gentiles who are Jew wannabes. Modern day version would be the Hebrew roots movement. Gentiles who want to put themselves under the law, pretend they're Jewish, do the kosher and the Shabbat and everything, and hope, modern day Hebrew roots movement doesn't go that far. But back in those days, it's Gentiles saying, we are going to, men are going to get circumcised. We're going to keep the law, and in the hope that we can get, in the family of God and get saved, which of course they totally missed. Save, by grace through faith. Nothing they could do. So I think because the text says they claim to be Jews, but they're not, and they're lying. I think it's better in the context to say they're Gentiles pretending to be Jews, and it's a fight between the two groups. But the important part, Brandon, is not so much which of the two. It could be either. It could be what you just said, or what I think I prefer for whatever reason, because of the of the text that I see here. The important part is, and you said it, it's not normative, it's not universal, it's not for all Jews, and it's not for all Jews of all times. It was a historical event. It happened back then. There was a purpose, and it was just for that time, and to use it like Candace Owens has used it, or Rick Wiles, or those crazy anti-Semites, to use it against the Jews, to claim that Jews are demon possessed, it's wrong, and it will lead people like that young man Stephen Pittman, who by the way has a Jewish name, but he's not Jewish. It would lead people like him to make a statement like that, and I don't think he cared if the synagogue had people in the building when he set it on fire. I don't think he asked himself the questions.
Okay, but so I may be right, but I may be wrong, is what you're saying.
Is that okay? We're still friends.
Yes. But it could be, instead of either or, it could be they're both true. There were people running around claiming to be Jews who weren't, but then you also had Jews that were persecuting Jews that were coming to Messiah, or even Christians. I mean, look at what Robert L. Thomas said here. You know Robert L. Thomas, I'm sure about him. He says about a half a century after John's time, Polycarp was burned alive at the age of 86 as the 12th martyr in Smyrna. Joining hands with the Romans to oppose Christianity was a very large Jewish community in Smyrna. The Jews repeatedly informed against Christians or incited the local governments to attack them.
It could be either. I don't think it can be both. I don't know if it makes sense to mix both. And I'm going to stick to version 2. But here's the thing. You and I, Brannon, we're not leftist. We don't argue and shoot each other when we disagree.
That's right.
Because we're conservative, Bible-believing Christians, we can look at things and say, hey, it's not a major, it's a minor. We can both say, hey, I prefer this one from what I understand, and we can move on. The important part you've already said in your opening is that it's not describing all Jews of today, all the way. Yeah, and that's the important part.
Now, the first reference to that is Revelation in your article, Revelation 2:9. I know your tribulation and your poverty, but you are rich, and the blasphemy by those who say they are Jews and are not, but are synagogue of Satan. Of course, I would go back away then. What if this is you're not Jews in the reference that Paul was saying? They're not circumcised of the heart. They're not the real Jews, the spiritual Jews. Could it not be that?
There is, there again, Brannon, I don't believe, this is good. We're disagreeing today. I love that. In love. You know my heart, right?
I do. I love this kind of conversation. You know that anyway.
And I know yours. So there is a scripture, of course, in Galatians that describes the Israel of God. And the Israel of God in that context is not the church that has replaced Israel. That's replacement theology, and that's from the pit of hell. The Israel of God is Jewish believers like myself back in the first century who have discovered, like, hey, this Jesus, he checks all the boxes. He is the promised Messiah. He is the Savior. He is all the prophecies that we heard from the prophets. He checks all the boxes. He is the Messiah. We're going to follow his teaching. We're going to follow him. And many of them went all the way to their death to follow Jesus. The Israel of God is Jews who have placed their trust in the Jewish Messiah. Some people call us, and I don't really care for the term, completed Jews, or I call myself a Jewish follower of Messiah. I'm part of the Israel of God. What I don't, I always want to be careful is you said spiritual Jews. By definition, a spiritual Jew is not a Gentile. A Gentile cannot become a spiritual Jew because that creates a lot of problems theologically. A spiritual Jew is an ethnic Jew like myself who have placed their trust in the Messiah and walks in the Spirit. Then that's a spiritual Jew. And I don't do it every day. I do things in the flesh, as we all do.
Right.
But that would be a definition of a spiritual Jew. So I'm a little uncomfortable describing Gentiles who place their trust in Messiah as spiritual Jews. But that really is not an issue.
But the Apostle Paul says that you need to be circumcised of the heart.
Right. I don't disagree.
He said those are the real Jews.
But he's talking when he's talking about the real Jews, he's talking to a Jewish audience.
Right. He's talking spiritually.
He's talking to a he's talking to a Jewish audience. So it doesn't mean Gentiles cannot be saved. Of course not.
Right.
But he's talking to a Jewish audience and says, hey, you're all Jews. We're all Jews. I'm from the tribe of Benjamin. I get it. Just like Nicodemus, when he talked to Jesus, Jesus said, you got to be born of the flesh and born of the water in John 3:1-15. It's just a matter of, if you come to Messiah, you are spiritually connected. You are a new creature. And it's the same for Gentiles. We're all in the family of God now. Gentiles followers of Messiah, like you, and Jewish follower of Messiah, like me. And I don't think we need to blur the lines, because a healthy look at it is to see Jews and Gentiles who retain their identities, because just like, no more Jew, no more Gentile. Well, the next thing is no more male, no more female. Wait a minute. We still have males and females in the body of Messiah. It's talking about justification. You and I, when we came to Jesus, he didn't care that you were a Gentile and that I was a Jew. He cared that you, Brannon, were a sinner in need of a Savior, and same with me.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is, we know that there's, in the scripture, there is all of Israel will be saved. And that's not saying everyone who's ever been a Jew will be saved, or everyone who's a Jew at that time is saved. All of Israel will be saved, because that is a group of people that will have been preserved spiritually and physically, who are Jewish in their DNA, but they have had the circumcision of the heart, and they are the regenerated, revived Israel of Ezekiel 38, politically revived and spiritually revived. So doesn't that separate them, though, from the DNA of a Jew who has not accepted Messiah? Because again, I'm not confusing the church, the Gentiles, with the Jews.
No, I know you're not.
The revived Israel are saved, not the unbelieving. The unbelievers are not the revived Israel.
Back up for a second. Your audience is going to love this. Oh my gosh, is Brannon Jewish? Because he argues like a Jew.
I just studied the Bible, though.
That's right. So back up for a second. The all Israel that will be saved, or Romans 11:26, what is referring it to in your mind? What does that refer to specifically?
I believe it's referring to those Jews that have made it all the way through the tribulation at the second coming, and they have been preserved spiritually and physically. And some of them, I think, also have made up the 144 who received a special mark and are preserved physically and spiritually to make it through. And they then physically, because the scripture says that they persevered through this tribulation, physically and spiritually. They didn't take the mark. They didn't surrender. They were protected, and they move into that millennial kingdom and receive the covenant promises of Genesis 15.
Well, they are indeed Jews who have survived the tribulation, basically, and that's unfortunately it's only 1/3 of all Jews that will be in the land, because of Zechariah 13:9 and 10. 2/3 will perish, 1/3 will be refined as silver and gold. But still, these are the Jews that will be protected, by the way, by Gentiles who did not make it at the rapture.
We agree.
Imagine that.
But how come it is you can phrase it in a way that makes it sound like we don't?
Because I'm Jewish.
That's exactly right. And you should have been a Jewish lawyer.
Well, no, I mean, we do agree. Brannon, I wouldn't be on your show to discuss things like this if we did not agree.
Yeah.
Again, those minor disagreement that we've discussed, that's very healthy, friends. You're watching this right now. This is exactly what we're missing in the world today. Discussing things like this, growing together. Iron sharpens iron. This is what needs to happen in the body of Messiah.
And just so the audience understands, you're saying the synagogue of Satan because it says, who say they are Jews but are not. And it says it in both contexts, in both verses, in chapter 2 and chapter 3, right? Both places.
I believe that the synagogue of Satan is, I'm sorry about the sun coming on my face.
That's
here,
all right.
This light.
It is the light of the Lord shining on thee.
Well, it's my light, my fixture in front of me that I need to adjust them. So they're
okay. Well, I had you elevated there.
Okay. Yes. That's, at least it's not a fake halo in the back. I think there's a stronger argument for Jew wannabes and not Jews who are in disagreement. But then, you and I don't want to beat a dead horse.
But I don't understand why it can't be both, because you already said we have these people that want to be the Jews, and they're really Gentiles trying to pretend they're Jews. And then we have Jews that are actually very, very hostile to the Lord and to his followers. So I don't understand why it can't be both. Let me give you another quote by Robert L. Thomas, because I love Robert L. Thomas. According to Jesus' own words, they are rather the synagogue of Satan. This is not a synagogue building, of course, but the people who gathered there, they assembled and planned their assault on the church, putting themselves at the disposal of the devil to carry out his will. They may have claimed to be the assembly of the Lord, but in heaven's eyes, These people were not true Jews, but emissaries of the primary adversary of God and his people, the devil or Satan.
My goodness. I don't like the way this is worded at all.
Okay. That's fine. Tell me why. I didn't write it. Robert L. Thomas did.
Yeah, I would have to, I need to digest that, but that sounds very anti-Semitic, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it sounds very anti-Semitic, and I don't want to make a statement that I'm going to regret or have to backpedal. I would like you to send me those couple of quotes, and I'd like to maybe look at it and look into it, maybe come back in another show, because there are issues in the way this is worded.
But wouldn't it fit with Romans 9? But it is not the word of God has taken no effect, for they are not all Israel who are of Israel, meaning the context was those who have been circumcised by the heart.
Yeah, they're not all Israel who are Israel. If you and I agree, it means that I'm trying to get away from that light. I'm sorry. It means that they're not all Jewish believers within ethnic Israel. Yeah,
right.
I agree.
They're unsaved Jews versus saved Jews.
Right, but I'm not convinced that unsaved Jews whose was being described in the synagogue, in the gathering used by Satan.
By the way, this would be the kind of thing where you would write a position paper and you would go to the pre-trib conference and you guys would present position papers arguing these things. This is the kind of thing you do at your pre-trib conference. Right?
Well, I just came back from the pre-trib and I did something else. But yeah, that's just, you know what, you're giving me an idea. Maybe next year I'll do a paper on the synagogue of Satan and I'll send you a copy and then we can discuss it. But
and I would use Romans 2. Again, the Apostle Paul, a Jew. For he is not a Jew who is one outwardly, nor is circumcision that which is outward in the flesh, but he is a Jew who is one inwardly, and circumcision that is of the heart and the spirit, not in the latter, whose praise is not from men, but from God. So I understand that Paul is saying, yeah, there are Jews that have DNA, but what we're talking about here are the ones that will be redeemed by believing in the Lord, just like the Gentiles. We're saved the same way. There's no two separate plans of salvation. And that ultimately God has a plan that he's working out for the redeemed of Israel. So just because you claim to be a Jew doesn't mean you're naturally grafted in. You're going to get a pass. That you're that you're one of the ones that God's talking about. You have to be circumcised from the heart in the spirit. Right.
And again, yes, and the one of the strongest passage to validate what you just said is when Nicodemus comes to Jesus at night and he thinks that because he's a rabbi, a teacher of Israel, part of the member of the Sanhedrin, he checks all the boxes, and Jesus goes like, great, good for you, but you're not saved. You don't get a free pass just because of all those things. Those are worldly things. They're commendable. They're fine, but they're not what we're looking for. We're looking for a change of heart. We're looking for the new creature, the rebirth, the spiritual rebirth. So they're not a Jew who's one, outwardly, but inwardly. I mean, the Pharisees were pretending all kinds of things. They were still ethnically Jewish, but they were not Jewish in the sense of Jewish believers in the family of God. Yeah, I think you and I have agreed on that for since we met.
Yeah, exactly.
Forever.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So the only area where we disagree is Revelation 2 and 3, synagogue of Satan, Gentiles pretending to be Jews, or Jews who are not saved who are persecuting new Jewish believers and Gentile believers. Or is it both? Or is it both?
And guess what? Like I said, I start by saying a lot of very, very people that are a lot smarter than you and I put together disagree on those two things. They go like it's either or. I have not seen anybody but Brannon say it could be both. But it's either one or the other.
I don't know why anyone wouldn't believe it couldn't be both, because we see that today. We see Jews that are not believers that persecute Christians. We see Gentiles who say that we are the church, we're the new Israel. We're the new Israel, the Gentiles. We're the new Israel. We're the Hebrew roots guys, but they're really Gentiles. You're like, you're not even Jews, guys. Come on. We see both of those today.
We do see them today. I'm not convinced that back in that historical moment in first century Israel, it was the case. But Brennan, I don't think it's that important.
Okay, so let's go to where we do agree. Where we do agree is you cannot take that verse of the Lord himself speaking to John in Revelation 2 and 3 and say, therefore we apply synagogue of Satan to all Jews. That's the point of your article, and that's where we agree.
That's the point of my article, and that's the point of the whole thing. You would agree that, and that's what people like Candace Owens or, I don't know that Tucker Carlson has used the synagogue of the Jews, the synagogue of Satan, but if somebody on one of his interviews would say it, you'd probably giggle and agree with him. So I know Candace has used it, Rick Wiles has used it, and Nick Fuentes has used it. So
it is used a lot, no doubt about that.
Yeah, and so again, it's good to explain the two possible groups of people, but the thing that we need to drive home is that it is not normative. It's not all Jews, but Christians don't go that far in their thinking. They just go and as a matter of fact, when I was writing the article, I look at just about every commentary I had on end times and on Revelation on my shelf, and I've got a few, and the great names, I would give you names, you'd go like, really? The great names of a DTS of 20, 30, 40 years ago don't even approach it. They stay away from it.
You mean Dallas Theological guys, they just skip it?
They pass on it very lightly. People like Walford, Ryrie, they pass on it very lightly. They don't focus on the synagogue of Satan. They just talk about the possibility of being a group of this way or that way, but they don't really spend too much time discussing the danger of using that. Maybe because back then it was not used as it has been in the last
Well, I would have
decades.
to say, we didn't see the anti-Semitism in the 70s and 80s when they were writing those like we do today.
Yeah, you're right.
When I was taking through the book of Revelation and I got there, I went right away and said, look, this is used by a lot of people to say all Jews are the synagogue of Satan. And you can't do that any more than you would claim every Gentile pastor is an automatic hireling because John 10 calls certain pastors not pastors, but hirelings. So you can't
it would be the same, Brannon, as me saying, and the first part of the story is absolutely true, but people have heard me on your show. They're saying that my mother, when she was 15, her father was taken by the Gestapo, put on a train, murdered in Auschwitz, and then I would say in the same breath, because of that, I will never step foot in Germany. I will never be in the same room with a German, and I will not buy anything German. Why? Because all Germans are Nazis. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
It's applying the same logic.
Yep, 100%. I want to promote your book real quick. If you guys go to Shalom in Messiah, let's see, where can I find the book here?
They can go straight to, the best way is to get it straight on Amazon, actually, right now.
Go right to Amazon. Hold it up. What's the name of the book?
Yeah, the name of the book is Anti-Semitism in the End Times. It's doing pretty well on Amazon. We're trying to get it to be, on the top so we can get more exposure. So go on Amazon, buy a copy for a friend, and help us get to the, to the list of, bestsellers. I put a lot of work into this book, and it's going to help Christians. It's going to help Christians reach out to their Jewish friends. Now, Brannon, do we have a couple more minutes?
Yeah, just a couple.
Okay, I want to give a challenge to your audience, if there are, and I'm sure there are many pastors watching your show. Call, if you're a pastor, even if you're a regular layperson, call the rabbi of your wherever you live in America, or somewhere in the world. Call the rabbi of your community and say, I want you to know that recently this was said that, this man in Mississippi burned the synagogue because they're the synagogue of Satan. Yes, those two verses in a very specific context are found in the Bible, but this is not who Christians are. And I want to tell you and your community that we will not support any of those things. We do not condone this. We are for Israel. We love the Jewish people, and this is not what Christianity is all about.
Exactly.
Take the time to make the phone call.
And did that guy say that? That was his justification for doing it?
That's correct.
And by the way, I want to clarify here too. Because we're not saying that all Jews are automatically in that camp. The description here is those who are going after and persecuting Christians and or Jews who'd come to Messiah, Yeshua. So I know many of my Orthodox Jewish friends, they love evangelicals. And they say, I'm Orthodox or I'm a Hasidic Jew, but I love you, Brannon, and your evangelical Christian friends because you do understand what we face and you speak up for us not to be persecuted. Those people, even though they're not believing in Yeshua Messiah, and I pray they will be, don't fall into that category because they're not out blaspheming God and trashing the Christians and persecuting the Christians and turning the Christians over to the authorities to be persecuted. They're not doing that. To the contrary, our groups agree to disagree. We disagree. They don't believe in Messiah yet. We do. We disagree, but we agree that we understand we have a common enemy, Satan.
Yeah, they're lost, but they're not toxic.
That's exactly right. And we have a common enemy that says openly, we're coming for those who are in the Judeo-Christian realm. We're coming for the Saturday people and then the Sunday people. And we understand that this is a demonic attack to go after the Jews, Israel, and Christians. And so we can stand together and evangelize our friends and make them jealous, as the Apostle Paul, who was a Jew of the tribe of Benjamin, said to do, by proclaiming our love of the Lord, the gospel, but also by loving our neighbor and standing up for our neighbor and being good Samaritans, right?
Amen. I agree with 100%. Absolutely.
Here's the book. Here it is. Anti-Semitism in the End Times. Get it at Amazon, Olivier Melnick. Love this back and forth. Iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another, right?
Yes. I know, and I'm the one who went for the abuse because I'm the one who reached out to you saying, "Let's talk about the synagogue of Satan."
I know.
So,
Normally, I have to reach out to you, but you actually reached out to me this time, which was really shocking.
Well, I wanted to show you, maybe 2026 is a new era.
He's turning over a new leaf. Excellent. Because I'm always like, you need a market. You need to market and promote yourself and your book and what you're doing, which means you need to be doing lots of media, which means you should be contacting me without me having to contact you. And so you started out the new year with a great first step forward.
I do a lot of media. I've been doing an average of, 1 or 2 interviews almost every day for the last 3 months. So it's
you need to. You need to.
Yeah.
Absolutely you do. And then you come join me and do like 4 hours a day of television and radio.
Sure. What's for lunch?
We need to get you back in the studio, to be honest with you. All right, Olivier Melnick.
No. That's it. I was just something silly. So thanks for having me, Brannon. And again, let's keep up, fighting the good fight. It's not over, and it's going to get worse. I can promise you that.
Unfortunately, it is. ShalomInMessiah.com. ShalomInMessiah.com. Thank you, Olivier.
Be blessed.
Guys, we'll be right back after this break. We have a big announcement, folks. It's called Bella Melt. In the first week, you lost 3 pounds on this, right?
That is correct.
Your GLP-1 is a natural hormone that's in every single one of our bodies. And your GLP-1 lets you know if you're full. It's a satiety hormone. So when your GLP is working properly, it does help suppress your appetite as well as reduce those cravings. So what it's going to do best is it's going to reduce your sugar cravings or any other cravings you have in your body. It's going to suppress that appetite. But where Melissa got the most benefit, I think, over the last week was the L-carnitine. The L-carnitine tells your mitochondria, this is where you we've talked about it before, this is where you produce energy in your cells. It actually tells those mitochondria to burn fat for fuel.
MelissaHouseBG.com just now introducing for the first time Bella Melt with GLP-1 fast action. Guys, welcome back. So this afternoon, U.S. time, Central, we got word about this from our friend Tommy Robinson. Disgusting scenes outside the Iranian embassy in London tonight as Met police baton protesters across the head and make arrest. Khomeini been on the phone to Khan. That's the mayor of London, the Muslim mayor of London. That's the Muslim mayor, I believe he's referring to. Has he been on the phone with Khomeini? Asked Tommy Robinson. All right, look at these pictures. Wow. Are they peaceful protesters, guys? Anyone know? I'm guessing, right? Let's see some of the video here. Here we go. It looks like they're waving the flag. the original flag, the one that you saw today behind the Prince. If you watch the press conference by the Prince that we carried today and that we did a whole hour on with Annie and Cyrus and Dr. Woods and Jerome Hading today, that doesn't look, I don't see a reason to be beating anybody over that, do you? Is it outside the embassy in London, the Iranian embassy in London? You got more footage in there you guys are finding? All right. Well, that's one clip we've got. We'll keep you posted on any more we find. Let's see what else we got, Logan. Let's see. Oh, all right. If you find anything else, let me know, will you? That's what's going on tonight in London. And we'll keep you posted on that throughout the broadcast. All right, let's go to our next guest. I also recorded this yesterday with David Pyne to bring to you tonight. Watch this. Joining me now is one of our national security experts, David Pyne. Let's talk about President Trump. He drew some lines in the sand, told the folks to get out in the street, take the institutions, help was on the way. And now we're hearing reports that he will not be doing any strikes. Joining me now is David Pyne. Let's talk about Greenland and several other issues. David, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Brannon, great to be with you.
Regardless of where people stand on should America be involved in striking Iran or not, I think both sides would say, wait a minute, if you tell thousands, tens of thousands of young people, many of them teenagers, some of them, we're told a big crop of them are below 18 years of age, to get out into the street, take the institution, help is on the way, and then you don't show up. Not only have we just offered up these people for mass slaughter, but in my opinion, what are we saying to other nations that long for freedom, other people that long for freedom, to think America might be there to help them? What does that say to Venezuelans and Cubans and other people in our own hemisphere that want freedom and don't want to be pawns of China or Iran or other such states? And then what does it say about America as far as, a president saying something and dictators, Xi Jinping and others know Trump's serious? I don't know. This whole thing just seems like a massive PR problem for President Trump and now the midterms. What say you?
Well, I think this is a CIA color revolution we're seeing on the streets of Iran right now. Millions of protesters have been protesting. They've been burning government buildings, trying to seize control of IRGC and other government buildings. Reportedly, taking control, at least briefly, of a couple cities in northwest Iran. So this is definitely the most widespread civil unrest, almost civil war type situation we've seen in Iran since the Ayatollah took power, Khomeini in 1979. And I agree with you. I didn't hear Trump say that go out in the streets, but clearly the CIA is the one that organized this, along with the Israeli Mossad, to try to destabilize and ideally overthrow the Islamist regime in Iran, which admittedly is a brutal regime. It's not committed any overt acts of war in terms of direct military action against its neighbors, but it has engaged in a vast terrorist support network throughout the Middle East. So I, for one, would love to see it gone. Unfortunately, I believe it's on Iran is a nuclear power. I believe it has super EMP satellites. The president and CEO of the Center for Security Policy, Tommy Waller, has also confirmed that, as I have in articles we published in 2023. And they also have, uncontestably, they have a massive cyber capability. So they have the potential to, either take down most, or perhaps even all of U.S. critical infrastructure in the event we cross their cyber or nuclear red line. And in my opinion, that red line would be devastating U.S. military strikes, direct military strikes that come close to overthrowing the Iranian regime. So that clearly is something that Trump was very seriously contemplating. In fact, he gave remarks yesterday at a press conference in which he said the executions had stopped, and he had that on a good source. But that may have just been another attempt by him to try to deceive Iran that the strikes weren't coming. But it's being reported on X as of last night and early this morning that he had that there were plans underway to begin those strikes as last night or the early morning hours, and he canceled at the last minute because he was told by U.S. intelligence, by the U.S. military, there was no way that they could guarantee that regime change would occur with the U.S. military capabilities in terms of bombing strikes that we had in the region.
Mm. So how does this leave us standing on the world stage when it comes to world leaders taking us seriously, the UN taking us seriously, Cuba, the leaders in Venezuela, or how about even Greenland? You know, I mean, are they going to take us seriously now? If Trump says, I want your land and we're going to take it, maybe we're like, yeah, okay, we'll see. What do you think? I mean, what does this do to him on the world stage?
I don't think the credibility of President Trump is really the biggest issue here. I think the biggest issue is ensuring the survival of the United States of America. So I would argue that a loss of credibility or prestige is far preferable to risking an all-out regional and perhaps even world war with Iran. Again, potentially a nuclear power that has maybe 15, maybe 50 nuclear weapons. We're not sure if they have any ICBMs, but they likely do have 2 super EMP satellites over us, the NOR 2 and 3, that could take us out with a massive super EMP attack. Even if they don't have nukes, they could use cyber weapons. So that once again, I think that we hear from the neocons in Congress all the time that the most important thing is that people believe that when Trump bullies countries around, that he's, with threats of invasion or bombing, that he's going to make good on those threats. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing is to do what's best for America, to put America first. And obviously, I mean, I think you would agree that putting America first, in this instance at least, would be to avoid overt military conflict and limit ourselves to, at most, sending arms to the protesters to help them have the fighting chance to survive.
Well, that's right. Something like that. Something, not just let them sit in the streets, tell them help is on the way, and then let them get slaughtered. No, I agree that those things are important, and maybe I don't know where they are on the list, but don't you want a president that people take seriously on the world stage, that don't think he kind of flips and flops based on who's telling him something? I mean, that's not what we want the folks in Venezuela or Mexico or Cuba to think, do we?
Well, I do think it's important that we have a president who doesn't make empty threats. Absolutely. And we have a president today that does make a lot of threats. And I would agree with you that most of them are bluster. This is not the only instance where Trump has threatened military action, hasn't followed through. Of course, and many times to the detriment of U.S. national security. I think that's one of many considerations. But it would be nice to have a president who speaks America first and follows through on those America first commitments. His commitment to be a peace president, that's worthy of the Nobel Peace Prize, which he's apparently attempting to steal from Machado and the leader of the Venezuelan opposition. She was apparently willing to give that, and then the Nobel Peace Prize Committee in Norway said, simply handing it over isn't going to magically give Trump the Nobel Peace Prize. But he's bombed 7 or 8 countries since he became president just the last 12 months. Basically 3 wars. A 2-month war with Yemen, almost 60 days. Of course, the war with Iran that he started by bombing their nuclear sites. That at most, pushed back parts of their nuclear program 3 months. I don't think it really had any effect on them. But what's interesting is, and then of course Venezuela, where he did the snatch and grab with Maduro, but really accomplished nothing. The Venezuelan communist regime is still intact. The sweetheart deal that Maduro offered to Trump, he rejected, and there's no evidence that their new president, Delcy Rodriguez, is going to extend that agreement or that offer to essentially transition away from the communist dictatorship into a democratically elected administration, which the communists would retain, the Maduro Chavistas would retain control of the defense ministry and the armed forces. It's just unclear what the president's really accomplishing. And that was really my biggest question: is if we bombed Iran, what we accomplished? We couldn't overthrow the regime through bombing strikes alone. There's no instance in modern history, actually, I think in history at all, that bombing alone has done that. Kosovo, I guess, would be the closest thing to that, in terms of not having an arm. But, there was an armed resistance movement. There was the Kosovo Liberation Army, which it was, an ally of Al-Qaeda that we were fighting for. We were bombing Christian Serbia to accomplish that. But we had an armed resistance movement, organized, narco-terrorist army that we were supporting. And that is not the case in Iran. There's simply no organized armed resistance movement. There's a lot of unarmed protesters. It's badly fractured, with kind of the titular head of Pahlavi, of course, the crown prince of Iran that was deposed, the Shah, of course, being deposed in 1979. But they don't really agree that he should be the leader. He's just the only opposition figure that, being out of the country, that they're kind of using as a placeholder, essentially.
New York Times has got this for a headline: Israel and Arab nations asked Trump to refrain from attacking Iran. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel asked the president to postpone any planned attack. Israeli and Arab officials fear Iran could retaliate by striking their countries. What do you make of that?
That is really interesting. I've never heard Netanyahu say to, withhold the use of military force. He's acted as the rogue state, attacking all of his neighbors, and obviously he was well justified in attacking Gaza in response to the Hamas terrorist attacks. But that's good news. I love to see any realism or any restraint on the use of force by the Israeli prime minister is welcome, and I commend him for it.
Let's switch real quick to a couple other issues. I want to go to Greenland real quick. But what do you know about our mutual friend, the late Dr. Peter Pyne, doing interviews? I don't know, Logan, if you can pull up any of the B-roll footage of it, being interviewed by Erica Kirk before her last name was Kirk. That's come out in the last few days, the video footage. And I think she interviewed him more than once. Apparently, her and her family had something to do or with a company related to EMP technology. It's really interesting because it was after I'm pretty certain he told me about her and her mother and this family. But at the time, she didn't mean anything to me. But he told me about how he was working with this gal and her mother and these interviews. But I didn't mean anything to me. Her name didn't mean, because her name wasn't Kirk at that time. And now it's going everywhere that, she indeed was involved in talking about EMP and technology. And what do you know about that, if anything? What was her family, or was her family involved in, her mom and her involved in some kind of technology related to EMP?
Actually, I know very little about that, and it's news to me that she interviewed Dr. Pyne. I think it's very cool. I'm a big admirer of hers. I think she's doing a great job leading up TPUSA and as Charlie's widow. Of course,
do we have the
Kirk
footage, Logan? Throw it up there. Let him see it, because this all came out this week. There he is, being interviewed by her. Do you have any audio with it?
Strategy Forum, both congressional.
Okay, he's going to try to make it so you can hear it, but I wish I had. Oh, here we go. I wish I had, probed him a little bit deeper about the young lady and what she was up to, because he was impressed that somebody so young had an interest in this technology and this information. And again, I cannot remember what it was. He told me they were working, why she was interviewing him, but he did tell me about this. And again, I didn't know who Erica was. I don't even know what her last name at the time was, what she was going by then. But wow, now that's all come out this week, and that's going around that she was on this topic, which of course is near and dear to your heart, my heart. So I do wish she would take Turning Point and make this an issue for Turning Point, because you want to talk about impacting the country and youth and the future and the ability to have a civilized society. EMP is certainly a major threat in cyber hacking. Here it is. We'll listen to it for the first time. Here we go.
The host of Millennials Rock, and I'm here today with the incredible Dr. Peter Pyne. He is the Executive Director of the Task Force on National and Homeland Security and Director of the U.S. Nuclear Strategy Forum, both congressional advisory boards. He has served on the Congression EMP Commission, the Congression Strategic Posture Commission, the House Armed Services Committee, and the CIA. He is also the author of Apocalypse Unknown. Thank you so much for being here, Dr.
Well, thank
Pyne.
you for having me to discuss this vitally important subject.
Absolutely. I wanted to, I know we're quick on time, but I wanted to be able to touch a little bit of topics on the grid vulnerability that we have here.
Isn't that fascinating? So that's going around. There you go. Well, hopefully she'll pick that up and run with that again. That would be great. We need more voices on this, because it really is one of the major, if maybe not the major, existential threat facing the country. And it just doesn't get a lot of play, does it, Dr. or David?
No, it doesn't. It's a vitally important, issue for everyone. It doesn't matter what your political persuasion is. I wish liberals would understand what an important issue is. This is, even if they don't believe that we'll ever get attacked with super EP satellites or super EP weapons, the fact is that a super geomagnetic storm, similar to the Carotene event, could take out all electronics. And push us back to a pre-electrical society, essentially, with unable to sustain a population greater than perhaps 30 or 40 million. So, as was the case in the late 19th century. So it is critically important. And I wonder if Erica was involved with Congressman Trent Franks at all, because Trent Franks, of course, I think was the co-chair of the Congressional EMP caucus. And he was a huge, this was a huge issue for him as well. So him being in Arizona makes me wonder if there was any connection between her as potentially a staffer or anything like that. But I'll definitely want to look into that.
Let's go real quick and finally to Greenland. You're putting out information on this, and you're reporting that U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is expected to prepare a proposal to buy Greenland for $700 billion. An NBC report. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, I think that's a great thing to do. I mean, Truman, of course, offered $100 billion in gold, which to Denmark in 1946 to buy Greenland, and that was the equivalent of, in modern dollars, 2025 dollars, of around 1.5 trillion, if not more. So I would say this is, if anything, a little bit of a lowball offer. But President Trump has made clear, at his meetings with Danish officials at the White House, I think maybe just yesterday, that this is it's gonna happen either the easy way or the hard way. I sometimes wonder about that, because Denmark, of course, is saying if we get bullied into giving up Greenland, or if you take it by force, it's the end of NATO. I mean, I love those kind of threats, because as you know, I'm not a supporter of NATO. I've been calling for the U.S. exit NATO for the last 7 years.
I agree on that. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, NATO is a millstone around our neck that is, could drag us down into an unnecessary nuclear war with Russia over Ukraine, over the Baltic states, over an drone incursion over Poland. I mean, any number of things can end up destroying the U.S., where there's just simply no interest. There's no vital national security interest. I would argue none of Eastern Europe is a U.S. National security interest, that's worth the potential destruction of the U.S. And of course, that's what our NATO commitment is all about. So, I think that President Trump would be wise to give up all this Iran war nonsense, where he's dispatched potentially the Abraham Lincoln Carrier Group from the South China Sea that would take a week to get the Middle East. A couple carriers out of San Diego that left, both carriers that were stationed there for refit and training, left before their training was completed, likely to go to the South China Sea in case China takes advantage of any U.S. war with Iran to invade Taiwan. So This is a multifaceted threat. If we attack Iran, and I know you and I have discussed this on your show many times, is that if we get bogged down in a war with Iran that lasts weeks or months, China would invariably take control of that, take advantage of that window of vulnerability to attack and likely invade Taiwan, because we just simply won't have the military assets and resources available to deter that attack.
Wow. dpyne.substack.com, dpyne.substack.com. And his Twitter handle, what is it again, David? Remind me, AmericaCon First? At AmericaCon First?
It's an America First Con, yeah.
At America First Con. Okay. Or dpyne.substack.com, as you see on the screen there. The news stories are running fast. Can you believe it? Here we are, January 15th, 2026. Look at the amount of news we've covered in just the first 15 days of the year. We kind of said 2026 was going to be a banner year, but I think pretty much since COVID, everything has been a fast news track, but it does seem to be speeding up. There's more stories, more interviews than we can do in a given day, and a lot of them get left on the news desk we don't get to because the news cycle's running so fast. But we sure appreciate all you do to help us think through the issues. And, you know, the great thing about this, David, is we don't have to agree on everything, but we have guests on. We let them state the position so the host, as well as the viewers and listeners, can take all the information we bring and then come to conclusions and analysis themselves based on their own due diligence. And that's what we do here. And so we try to bring on a lot of voices to talk about a lot of issues and then make discernment priority in our final analysis. So thank you for helping us do that, David.
You bet. And you do an amazing job, spreading the truth to your viewers. So I really appreciate all you do.
Thank you, David. Join me now is gubernatorial candidate Mike Lindell. He's also got a big anniversary he's celebrating today. We'll tell you about that in just 1 minute. Mike, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks, Brannon, for having me on. Boy, it's been a long time, but I'll tell you what, a lot happens. I have like years, like a week is like 10 years, and 10 years is like a lifetime.
Well, I read an article the other day. You're doing really well in the polls for governor of Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. Yep, absolutely. Even in the betting polls, they always know stuff, right?
The poly market or whatever?
Yeah, the poly market. Yeah, they go from 1 to 3. They keep adjusting everybody. I guess, I've been doing a lot of debates, so I think as a straw poll comes out, then people have changed their bets and stuff. Pretty interesting.
How many of you are running in the Republican side?
I think there's at least 12.
12? So when is the first debate of you 12?
We've been having them for the last 2 weeks. The one last night was actually televised on Alpha News, which is the only true news coming out of Minnesota that's based here.
Yeah, that's our friend Liz Collins and others. Yeah,
Liz Collins. Yeah, you guys can watch that one if you want. It's that was a pretty good one. Everybody
maybe pull some clips for that real quick, Logan. Some B-roll footage of that.
Pull a couple clips from old Mike talking.
Yeah,
Logan.
See what Mike was saying. So when is the primary?
The primary, here's where Minnesota is, everybody. Here's why I need your help, too, by the way. Right now, February 3rd is a very important date in Minnesota because it's the statewide straw poll. And right now, that's why everyone's doing these debates. I mean, all 12 are coming to all of them. They're out there campaigning and all this. Because when that straw poll comes out now, you're knowing where you're at. It's probably going to eliminate a bunch of them because this is all about getting the GOP endorsement, which that big vote is in May. Okay. Now, and if you honor that and then they expect the rest just to drop out, whoever wins that, and not have the primary in August, Brandon. In Minnesota, traditionally, it's a bad time. I get that in August because by the time you decide who your candidate is, you vote in the primary. Minnesota has been was voting 45 days early before the nation made it. All the states did this criminal act of voting early. So you realize that candidate has very little time, and 2 weeks later you're already voting. And so they were thinking about moving that back. I mean, how common sense would that be? But then it brings up the other thing they keep asking us all: will you honor the GOP endorsement? And I've said right now, no. And I would not run as an independent, but I certainly would want this I want this to go to the people. And the reason is, remember, Brand, the RNC, when I ran for RNC chair, the night before, Rasmussen did a poll, and I doubled Harmeet Dillon and Ronna McDaniel combined. So all the people in the country wanted me to be RNC chair, and then their representatives, three from each state, they gave me 4 votes. And in fact, when I was on Jimmy Kimmel, he said, well, Mike, what do you think of that? I said, well, the people, once again, they went away with what the people really want. And he said, do you think it was a fair election? I said, absolutely. Paper ballots, hand counted.
So tell me what you would do as governor with all of this fraud. What is that number up to now, Mike? How many hundreds of millions?
They say billions with a B.
Billions.
It's getting upwards of 18 billion. It's the biggest fraud scandal in the history of probably the world, but for sure the United States. And you see all this stuff going on, that big deflection now with all the riots and the protesters. And there's a couple of things I would do. Well, let's talk about what's going on right now. You guys, we got to arrest the protesters, make protester laws. When you commit crimes, and that includes impeding people from getting to work, blocking traffic, Minnesota, what our governor did here years ago even, we had Black Lives Matter, and they blocked off our biggest highway, and my workers couldn't get to work. We couldn't get supplies. And if you and I stood in the middle of a highway, Brandon, I'm sorry, you'd get arrested. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
In
Minnesota, what about an ambulance? What about an ambulance trying to get right?
They just showed on 2 days ago here in Minneapolis. It was a guy trying to get to his daughter, to pick his daughter, simple thing like that, pick his daughter up at school or a sporting event, and he got out of his car, and all the protesters there, most of them are from out of state, hired everybody, and he gets up and he's repping to them, I got to get to my daughter. And he gets to his car and finally let him through. But now it's getting worse and worse because the agitators that are getting brought in, and these insurrectionists, they want something to happen. They want the confrontation. They want to, and as you've seen today in Minnesota, you had all these the schools they shut down so they could go protest, and in our capital. And these kids have been indoctrinated to hate the president, to hate our country, and it's just disgusting. So it's all a deflection away from the fraud. Here's what I would do, Brandon. Here's what I said on stage last night. You first of all, the fraud hopefully is taken care of by them, but they all got to get arrested, and you got to dive into you can't leave one stone unturned there. You have to dive into all these welfare and social programs, not just the one they've stolen from, and not just the Somalians, which of course are 85% of it. They're the ones that found the blessing we all have, that it's all brought out in the open. As long as we're talking about them, I'm a little all over the board. The first day as governor, I would bring back our flag and I would ban Sharia law like other states have done. This is disgusting what's going on in our state with that. Well, so you get rid of the fraud, Brandon, but I have what I believe the best what would you say, solution to the fraud problem is you take all these welfare programs and you take them apart one by one and say, should we get rid of this one? Should this one be revamped and have an end game to it? Realize that of these welfare programs, just the Somalians alone, 85% when they get on them, they stay on them, some for 20 years. 85% of them are on the programs right now, whether they're stealing or not. So this is disgusting. Now, 8 years ago, I built the Lindell Foundation, and I had this great idea, and it came to fruition. I spent millions of dollars setting up these kind of like massive give, send, goes. People want to help in the private sector, but they want to help things that are dear to them. Hey, I'll help here. I'll help homeless here. I'll help this here, child care here. So we set this up, and I actually tested it after years of putting it together in Detroit, Michigan. Well, the private sector money, now I was the government, so I paid anything that wasn't paid for. So, and it dropped it down to it saved about 40%. So imagine this, Brandon, you save $18 billion in fraud, because each one's vetted. Now you have private sector money trusting that particular program, and then you save another 40% on these programs, this will be duplicated all over our country and at the national level. And it can happen right away. We've got it ready to plug in and go. And then you take those tens of billions of dollars, and then you can do great things like get rid of sales tax. And why get rid of sales tax first, Mike? Because all the box stores and the small businesses are hurting because everybody's buying from Amazon and online. And you need to give people an incentive, like a lower price, something they save, to go back and do physical shopping. And because you've got cities and businesses that are just empty of customers.
What
and
about
then,
what about property tax? A governor of Florida is talking
property tax. Yeah, you would take away. You either do. I'd probably go. I don't know if I'd go with the income tax or property tax. I think you got to. I think you got to kind of pick one there.
I like getting rid of the income tax simply because then someone who's on a fixed income, retired, you own your house, you don't have to keep paying the government to keep it. It protects private property. And someone on a fixed income, while their house is going up in value due to inflation, and maybe they paid their house off 20, 30 years ago, now their property tax is so high, they're going to lose their house over the property tax.
Yeah, property tax is probably the best one there because...
By the way, I should put you with my friend, what's his name again, Logan? My friend whose name I can't remember. Vince? On all of the fraud that's going on with property tax going into this, Vince, what is it? Mitch Vexer, my good friend Vince. Mitch, who I've interviewed several times but need help with his name. He talks about all the fraud going on with the property tax to fund schools, and they do these school bonds. And they have to keep raising money to cover what they're paying. Well, he describes it as a Ponzi scheme. So that and he says there's hardly a state in the country.
You just made up my mind because I was weighing which one.
He said there's not hardly a state in the country that isn't involved in this. And he's a builder, and he got into this because he started seeing the problem of housing and rent and other things that was obstructing his ability to even legitimately build homes, knowing what was going to happen as property taxes kept going up and up and up to backfill the Ponzi scheme.
Okay. Well, when I get off here, Brad, you're going to connect me right away. You know me, I don't wait on anything.
I will put you in a text thread with him.
Right. You know me. Do I wait on anything? When I see a deviation or something, I dive in. They said this on the stage. They asked me, what the other night they said in the debate, they said, Mike, what is going to be your first priority? And I said, all of them. I said, I look for deviations like in my company that's been the most attacked company in history. You don't just say, hey, well, let's fix this over here. And I've told him I've got 200 probably of my employees have my direct number, and they call me if there's a problem or a block. You don't wait till $9 billion is missing. Oh, you're missing, let's look into it now. Right there by you saying that, I got a debate tonight in about 4 or 5 hours or whatever, and so I'll be connected with this guy.
I'll put you in a text thread with him right now.
Yeah, because that just makes sense. And then when you talk about schools too, so much of this ties together, everybody. And you talk about our education in Minnesota. There's another one. Like you see how they brainwashed all of our children to hate our country. And here I'm living the American dream on steroids. I have, and you go back to what they're teaching with the unions and the. And I want to bring back parent teachers together. But one of the things, Minnesota has went from the top 3 in the nation to number 39. And there's so many different problems with that. And we could spend a whole hour just talking about that. I've met with teachers and I see so many of the problems. And a lot of it is, especially when you get illegals here or people that don't assimilate and speak our language and you have them in the classrooms, the rest of the children you can't, and the teachers can't put them over here or discipline them for not getting stuff done, like detention, any of these things, because it's red tape that you'd have to go through and you'd probably be ousted as a teacher. And that's why they're suffering. Everything's suffering. There's so many reasons. And then you're funding our education with, like you just said, with these, there's so much fraud involved there too. And there
you go. I've already put you in a thread with Mitch and you. So there you go.
Awesome. And there's so much, when I was just saying, they asked us about that. I said, was I for vouchers? Absolutely. I want the money to follow the child so you have choices, but we still can't just leave our public education hanging. It's got to be fixed immediately in Minnesota. So many things to fix. But Brandon, you know me, and I want to say that. Here's what I said last night. They asked the 12 of us, what would be your president that you would be, that mentor, that would be like a mentor to you that you've seen in the past, right? Or president? Well, I was the only one that said, what? Our great president, Donald Trump. And I said, if you guys can watch that on that Alpha News, but when I explained there, I said, when I'm with him, I've never seen, I thought I was a great multitasker. He's like amazing, the most amazing multitasker, and it's get it done now. You wonder how there's that much time in a day. It's because he's so good at that, and he just takes in the input, boom, makes the decision. It's not like a corporation where, you know what, and this is third quarter, we spent too much money over here in Sector 3. There's $18 billion missing. Let's go do something about that. No, you do everything on a parallel track. You put great teams out there like I have at MyPillow. There's no way, Brandon, I would have got through a year and a half or more, well, more than that now. It's been 5 years of attacks on my company, like a ship being blown full of holes every day, and MyPillow is still here. And in fact, that's my campaign slogan, everybody. I'm still standing, and I'll stand for you.
And guess what his website, this is your website, right?
Yeah, Mike Lindell Gov, MikeLindellGov.com.
But but here's one over here with you on it called MyGovernor.com. Is that you?
No.
That's not you.
No, so somebody, I'm glad you found that.
I thought it was like My Pillow, My Governor, but yeah, you go to MyGovernor.com.
No, somebody has probably copied and trying to get steal people's donations. Mine's Mike.
Yeah, there's
Lindell.
a donate button right there. Yeah, you might want to get on that one.
Yeah. Oh no! And see, that's what I'm telling you about, everybody. That we'll have people on this immediately. This is, what was it, Brandon?
MyGovernor.com.
Okay.
And but that's not Mike's website. He's saying his website is the one I'm on right now, which is MikeLindellGov.com. There's his website.
There's my website, everybody. This is not good. Go back to that, Brandon, the MyGovernor.com.
MyGovernor.com, yeah.
And it says my name there. Can you
support Mike's campaign? That just popped up.
I'm getting my guy over here. Tell him to hurry.
Yeah. That's not good.
It could be a super PAC. So I just want to it could be a PAC. Let me check right now. We're gonna answer this. I hate to.
Well, it's interesting news in of itself.
Do any of the PACs have MyGovernor.com?
No.
Okay, there's a fraud then. You need to do something right now.
It says at the bottom, not authorized.
Submitted to who?
Submitted to Google to get it off their listings. And
it says not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Wow. This is what they do to me, everybody. This is attack. Okay. All right. Well, he just validated, Brand, that we're trying to get it taken down by
and he requested $7,500 from us too. We have the email.
What's that?
He requested us buy it from him for $7,500.
Oh, and the guy tried to blackmail us to buy it from us for $7,500. This guy.
Okay.
Using my name fraudulently. Is it a foreigner? Is it illegal that's doing it? We don't know.
It's somebody in Minnesota.
It's someone in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's find out who he is, and we'll put his name out. Brandon, when I'm governor, and even now, we're going to put one of the things, we put criminals and stuff, we put their names up in lights nowadays. I've been doing that for a long time. I'm sick of it.
Let me make sure everybody realizes the real website is this one, MikeLindellGov.com.
MikeLindellGov.com, everybody. We need help right now. Like we said, this month is so important. Every dime is going to be spent on marketing so I get to be governor. 100% of the money going in there. Man, I'm going to be doing stuff that I was going to do for the president, like half-hour infomercials that explain to people all my plans that you can't explain in a 1-minute commercial. And we're also doing, when we do the campaign, there's 250,000 people that voted for Donald Trump in 2020 that didn't vote in Minnesota in 2022.
Wow.
We're going after them. And also we're going after the inner city. Me being an ex-addict, I spent a lot of time down in Minneapolis with all my philanthropy when I came out of crack cocaine
Which, by the way,
addiction.
your anniversary, 17 years today?
17 years ago today, when I prayed to God to free me of all the desire for crack and everything else. And that was today, probably around this time.
Wow.
When I did that, you guys, I came out, I wanted to help people with, I helped the teen challenges in Minneapolis, the Salvation Army, work with them, help the homeless, help the people in addiction get to find Jesus and get out of addiction. Well, right now, downtown, there it is. There's that picture where the drug dealers did an intervention on me on the left there. Been up for a couple weeks on crack. And there's the American dream, Brannon. That's what we're trying to save here on steroids. Where can you go from being in the streets as a crack addict to where I've come from now, running for governor?
And having the president of the United States
as a great friend.
as a sitting president say this. Watch this.
In Minnesota, this beautiful place, once beautiful, I don't call it beautiful, you got a governor who's a stupid person and a corrupt. He's corrupt and stupid. But he allowed this to go on. Everybody knew what was going on. But what nobody knew is over $9 billion. And the people of Minnesota are not happy. And you know who's running for governor? Mike Lindell. Do we like Mike Lindell? That man suffered. What he went through because he knew the election was rigged. And he did it. He just did it as a citizen. Mike Lindell, I'll tell you what, every time I introduced him, he got the biggest hand. I hope he does great. He deserves to do great. That man suffered. These people went after him. They went after his company. They did that with me, too, but at least I knew what I was getting into. He was just a guy that said, geez, this election was so crooked. It was so rigged. He fought like hell. That guy deserves to be governor of Minnesota, I'll tell you right now. He's a great guy, too.
Wow.
Yeah, Brandon, what you're missing out there on that clip is all the applause. I guess if you were there, it was just, it was like deafening. People just really went crazy, which made me feel good that they, like at all the rallies I went to, the president's saying there, and they get all the applause because people wanted what we want. We all want secure and fair elections. But when that clip was aired, you guys, my team at Lindell TV and others are sending me, the president just endorsed you. I said, you put that down. That's not an endorsement. It's very gracious, awesome words that he said, but it's not an endorsement. And I want to explain that, Brannon, I want to explain something about the president because people ask me all the time. And by the way, you guys can help at MikeLindellGov.com. I need help now. I'm probably the poorest governor to ever run for governor in history. They asked me, the media asked me the other day, I go, you guys attacked me and took it all. I said, but we're going to count. The people will be behind me nationwide. This is a national, as Minnesota's the tip of the spear for this fraud and everything else. But Brannon, when last August, I asked the president, or I told the president, we were sitting in the Oval Office, I said, yeah, I think I'm going to run for governor. I'm thinking about running for governor of Minnesota. And he was just kind of taken back and he kind of speechless. And he didn't say anything. We kind of went on to the next thing. And I told him, I said, I'm going to decide. But I said, my wife and I, Kendra, are going to pray about it. And I said, I got to make sure before I even do it that my pillow can survive or keep going because the attacks are just horrific. And they've never let up, everybody. Well, anyway, my pillow got secure around Thanksgiving, and I announced December 11th. But 3 days before I announced, I did tell the president I was running, but I wanted him to know, and I want everybody else to know, it wasn't contingent on his endorsement. That'd be insulting if I went and said, you know what, I'll run if you endorse me. No, I'm running because I believe I'm the best candidate. I'm going to win and the one that can solve the problem. It's kind of like this, Brandon. Remember that old movie, Armageddon?
Yeah.
And they asked Bruce Willis. They said to Bruce Willis, I don't know if his daughter or somebody did, "Why are you doing this?" And he goes, "I just don't trust anyone else to do it right." And that was it. And I'll never, and so that's where I'm at. If I get the president endorsement, it'd be great. But I believe that that he appreciates that I went. He appreciates everything that we've done for the country to get with the election platforms. By the way, that's going great, everybody. You're going to see stuff pour out of Washington over the next month. And things like, the Georgia, the 250,000 that's been uncovered, the Smartmatic whistleblowers, Venezuela, all this stuff's going to pour out. And then you're going to see some great things coming. Hopefully, Brannon, they get a lot of news. It's news that hopefully they wait a few weeks so Minneapolis is finally out of the news with all this. Maybe the president should just come in here and solve this, because all these insurrectionist socialists that are here destroying our city, it's not going to let up, I don't believe. They're trying to deflect off the fraud, everybody. And the president needs to come in here and just clear out these protesters, put them in, all the ones breaking the law, put them in jail them, because most of them are from out of state, and the other ones they're breaking the law. When you stop someone, when you impede someone from going to point A to point B, I don't care if it's walking on a sidewalk, you're breaking a law, but they're going beyond that. When the bricks thrown the door, it could end up being like the summer of 2020. If the way our governor and the mayor of Minneapolis keep pushing this, Brannon.
All right. For old time's sake, before we go, can we plug B66?
Yes, you guys. Well, I'll tell you, you guys have, Brannon, your audience has had our back forever. You go down, I want you to go down to radio specials like the good old days. All the way down. I'm going to give a little surprise for you, everybody. There it is.
The one with Mike wearing headphones. That's where we went right there.
Right. Here's what you click on that, everybody. Here's what we have for the promo code B66. We've never done this before. It's the lowest price in history on our mattress toppers, made in the USA. Over 10,000 comfort supports on the queen size alone, which is normally $249.98, $149.97. We have our mattresses on sale, the lowest prices ever, the comforters and all this. And let me tell you, here it is, everybody. We're going to add free shipping onto that. It comes right to your front door, free shipping right to your front door, and we're going to add to the warranty on those, 10-year warranty, and 6-month money back guarantee. You guys, during these times, you need the best sleep ever. And the pillow gives you your great REM sleep. These mattresses and mattress toppers give you what's called Delta sleep. I got one right here. Look at here with all these are called comfort supports. Sleep is about temperature and pressure points. You have to get these covered. When I developed these mattress toppers, by the way, most of them have the patented MyPillow fill in a solid form. So this is technology you're not going to find on other beds and under mattress toppers. And so use that promo code B66. B as in Brannon, 66, as in 66 chapters in the Bible.
There you go.
Books in the Bible. B66. A little plug for you, Brannon.
Thank you.
And call 800-894-6194. 800-894-6194. Free shipping on your entire order. Yeah, no, hold that square up, because I want to talk about the crosses. Everyone, if you were trying to order over Christmas, made in the USA, the crosses like mine. We have the women's in now. The mother of pearl looking reversible. And the men's. You save $80 there. Now 100% made in the USA. Now we got another little surprise for you, Brannon. Okay, here it is, everybody. This is the anti-tired drink. I want to tell a little bit about Rev 7. These guys came to me. This is no caffeine, no sugar. You took out these ingredients that people get all jittery and you got all these spikes. they replaced it with a patented, it's called BHB ketones. This is very important. It's been proved to reduce stress, but more importantly, it's good for your brain, needs it. So you're replacing these, and you get a mental clarity. Brandon, you know I don't need any more energy. I got energy all day, right?
That's true.
But what I do get from here is mental clarity, and I don't get, whenever I've taken energy drinks or coffee, you get this, you get the crash and up and down. All my employees, all my executive team, they're on Rev 7. And today, everyone asked for the shots. We got those in now. You guys try it. You will be absolutely amazed. If you go to the website and you'll tell all about it and the testimonials. This stuff was developed over 7 or 8 years. When I met these guys, I'm going, because, energy drinks are great, except for you get this going on and you have the jitters, all these things. What these are, that's why they're called the anti-tired drink, where you're, I use the example, I think one of the testimonies, I get precious time with my kids or grandkids, that time, and I don't want to be tired. Or you're driving, like I go back and forth to events. I don't want to be tired, but I don't want one of these big and then a big crash. So you guys, Rev 7, I swear by it, it's the most amazing drink I've ever had. And so we have that, and then we have a couple more. We have, I want you guys, I want to point out, we have the Giza Dream Sheets on sale. A lot of those are running out. You guys need to get them now to get this in as low as $29.98. You guys got to get, there's sizes and colors that are going to be gone very shortly, and we're going to have a gap. There's going to be a big gap, so you're not going to have the sale, and you're going to have a gap on top of it. Free shipping on your entire order. If you go down, there's one more I want to talk about. Well, the slippers. Once the slippers are gone, they're gone. Look at that, $39.98. Once they're gone, we can never get them again, everybody. This is a part of it was made that we couldn't get here in the U.S., the tariffs. And once they're gone, they're gone. There's many sizes. A lot of women's left. Men's are very short in sizes. $39.98. Okay, hold it right there, you guys. You see the middle ones with the 5 Bible pillows we did for Christmas this year? Those are $29.98, free shipping on your entire order. That's less than $6 for a MyPillow. The Bible stories on the back, you can get them for yourself, your kids. The Noah's Ark tells the story on the back. I think this is the best deal in the history of MyPillow. And with Christmas, we brought them all in, and we still have some left, so get them before they're gone. We have their big blanket sale. And there's the classic MyPillows. I had to do it for you, Brandon. Bring them back just for you. What is that, $14.98? Whoa, is that right?
Yep, $14.98 with promo.
Come on, that's got to be a mistake. $14.98, you guys. Remember when we had that? We had that sale a year and a half ago. Everything's gone up. Free shipping on your entire order. Fill up your house with the classic MyPillows. Okay, one more though. If you go back to the website, there it is, you guys. The Made in the USA, both of them are Made in the USA socks. The one on the left, the compression, the one on the right. In fact, the one on the left, their company is right here in Minnesota. These are Made in the USA socks. You can't, and they are the best. Both of them are absolutely amazing. And you guys didn't know we had so many products. And then we go down a little further. What do we got? There's the coffee, best coffee in the history of the planet. It's not even close. The My Coffee. You got everyone that number just keeps growing, Brandon. The My Coffee is amazing. And then we have the clothes out there. You have your dog beds. Everyone knows Brandon, you've always do we
have a Dolly cam, Logan?
Dog bed's the best dog.
Well, Dolly, you haven't met Dolly because Delta passed away, but Dolly is over here. She's a year and a half old. She's asleep on the MyPillow pet bed right to my right now.
What? You got see that? It doesn't matter. The dog they all love. They have one thing in common. Every dog, they love MyPillow dog beds.
There it is. There she is.
Look at that. Look at that. Carry on the tradition, Brandon. Yep. Good job.
From Delta to Dolly. That's her half sister.
Delta to Dolly. Wow.
Well,
that's so awesome. That's so awesome. So everybody, you guys, promo code B66, like B as in boy, B66, and you get free shipping on your entire order. And 800-894-6194. You guys, you're going to get some of my reps right downstairs. They speak English, Brannick. What? This is a new concept, a call center where they speak English and they're here legally.
Oh my! Now here's the big question: when you are governor of Minnesota, how well are you and Ilhan Omar going to work together? How well is that going to work?
She'll be gone. I think she'll be in jail before then. I really do. She, you guys, her net worth went in the last 4 years, kind of the opposite of mine. Hers went from 65,000 to 35 million.
What?
Her husband has been deleting stuff off their website, his business. This is all over the news. Ilhan Omar, if she's here, and she's even said, "Hey, I couldn't leave. I don't know," and she tells everyone to, remember everybody, this money got sent back to Somalia by the millions through the Minneapolis airport, by the billions in cases and cases and cases of $100 bills. And
well, this is actually at MSN. Ilhan Omar net worth up 30 million plus since 2019. What we know. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm not saying anything to get you in trouble, Brand. This is news.
Yeah, this is right at MSN. This is right at MSN.
Yeah. MSN, they heard, these media outlets. Brandon, this is so big. This is so big that even the horrible media, which is Minnesota and MSN, all of them, in our newspaper, the Minneapolis Tribune, this fraud is so big that they have to almost report it. But now, of course, they got the deflection with all the protesters. But these things, this Ilhan Omar, and then she's even said, "I don't care. I will just go back to my country." I mean, she is something else. Her and I, years ago, everybody, Ilhan Omar and I were in CBS, and they left us in the green room together. We were going on air together. Okay. It's probably 5, 6, it's before the China virus. And we're going to both go on together. And she goes, "You ready for this, Mike?" And we start, now it's just her and I, and we start arguing. The host came in, and she went and said, "Oh, no, we're not putting you two on together." So they separated us, put us on separate. I mean, that would have been great TV, everybody. It would have been, I'll tell you what, we have to ban Sharia law in this country. All the states. A lot of them are already banned. If it doesn't go together with if it violates the Constitution, which it does, I mean, it's horrific, everybody. Minnesota's the Trojan horse for this. And Brandon, I'm not afraid to say it anymore. There was a time ago, well, I don't know if I should say that, freedom of religion and all this stuff. But you know what? When it interferes with our Constitution and nobody assimilates, it's bad. They shut down, our governor shut down our Christian churches. Waltz did during the China virus, and the mosque stayed open, and they rung the call to prayer all over the buildings in Minneapolis. They said they came out to businesses like Amazon right next door to me, or My Pillow, whatever, and Cargill in January 3rd of 2016. They tried to shut down their lines for their call to prayer, Brandon, and Cargill fired them. You can look that article up right now. Cargill fires, I think it was 200 and some Somalians and Muslims that when they wouldn't work, they just walked off the job and said, "We're not going to do it." Well, what if you had a religion that said, "Hey, for 16 hours a day, you don't have to work. You only got to work 1 hour a day." I mean, come on, this is. If it doesn't match our Constitution, and Ilhan Omar, she has led this. Did you find the Cargill one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there it is. This stuff has started a long time ago in Minnesota. You guys, I've said it before. Minnesota has been the Trojan horse. All these other countries, you guys, overseas where they let them all in. And you know what, Brandon, you think us Christians could go hopping over and jump in one of their countries?
No, or build a church?
Or build a church. I mean, what they're doing around the country, I think in Texas alone, I think it's over 100 mosques have shown up. They keep these Muslims up here, these Somalians, they take the fake daycare money, and then you take that and you go to a church, you buy the building and turn it into a mosque.
Yep, they're buying Baptist churches and turning them into mosques.
Turning them into mosques, everybody. This is horrific. This is horrific. So anyway, Brandon, then you wonder why I need to be governor. I'm telling you, it's not. You guys, we get one shot at this.
Look at this headline. This headline. I'll go back. Let me double check that. How many mosques have opened in the last year? Some of these are saying that's 50 some odd mosques just in the last couple of years.
Where at? In Minnesota?
No, Texas.
Oh, in Texas, yeah, it's way up over 100 now, Brandon. You got that's old news. It's up over 100. I seen a pin cushion the other day with all the pins, and it's terrible. But this
Here's
is a
one saying
takeover.
48 new Texas mosques in 2 years.
Yeah, new ones, everybody.
Yeah.
New ones. So the total count's way higher than that, but that's just new ones. Guys, this is real. They don't assimilate. And there you
What's all that, Logan?
These are, you know what these are, you guys? We sent this to Logan. I believe we sent these to you guys. Here's what the Minnesota, these protesters are protecting. These are just 8 of the hundreds and hundreds of criminals and stuff that ICE has removed from Minnesota. If you go back to the top, Brandon, you can see, or go back to the top, the ones of murder, rapists, all these things. You want to say to these protesters, hey, here's the guy. Will you take him into your house and you feed him and you give him a free driver's license, give him everything free. Here's who they're protecting, and they don't even realize what they're doing. Same way with the governor of Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar, Ilhan Omar, Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, our media. These are who they're protecting, Brandon. They don't want these guys to be out here. They want to do protests because ICE is removing them and protecting us. We just had the most, I believe it was the lowest murder rate and crime rate in United States history last year.
Wow.
I believe, and I could be, that was a stat that came out. I didn't make it up.
Well, here President Trump is sending the National Guard. Our governor finally sending the state troopers. They're everywhere. Our crime is dropped like a rock here in Memphis.
And it's what I tell people. Even the D.C., one of the first towns is Washington, D.C., and that governor, that mayor, who's a Democrat, hard left, she said, hey, it's working. This is good. This is good. That was last summer. And then you start getting pushback. Brandon, let me tell you something. I seen it on the news, seen some lady walking through Portland the other day. I think she was a news reporter, but it was it was kind of, this is where we're at. She goes, look at me. Portland is the safest city in the United States now. You know why? Because there's nobody downtown. They're afraid to go downtown. Buildings are empty, just like Minneapolis. The buildings are empty. People are afraid at Christmas time to go down there. They're empty because the retailers, everybody's ordering online. Nobody's ordering in these stores. And I have solutions for this. We have to make things safe again. And who better to do that than Rudy Giuliani, who works for my network and works with me at Lindell TV. And there it is, MikeLindellGov.com. Please help out now. Donate. Well, I got to win this. And Brandon, so you know what? I didn't realize this. What Rudy Giuliani did when he made New York the safest city in the United States back then.
Yep.
Of course, he dropped the precinct right in the middle of Times Square, cleaned up the physical garbage every morning. But the one thing that was really important was there was no panhandling, no begging, and which eliminated, they arrested people for it. And one of the weirdest things that I'm going, wow, I didn't even think of that. He stopped people from when, you get to an intersection, they go, hey, can I wash your windows or whatever? And you're trying to, you're begging, they stop the begging. And even that, and you know what? That was slowing New York's traffic by 32%. Think about that. One simple fix, you take 200 of them people off the streets, make it illegal to do that, and which is basically slowing traffic, and you speed up traffic in New York by 30-some%. But he did all these things that made it so safe. Remember, if you eliminate the begging and stuff, you also eliminate people that are selling drugs in the street because they're policing everything. I don't care what you're trying to sell in the street. It made Times Square. I remember my wife and I going there, just the safest city, and now look where that's going. Yeah.
Wow. Look at this, guys. Mike Lindell. It is MikeLindellGov.com. MikeLindellGov.com. Mike, like old times, great having you back, my friend. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Brandon. And we've said it before. Let's pray that some of this liberal media that would actually make a change someday and start reporting the truth. And Because wouldn't that be something? We've even said it. What if old Jimmy Kimmel would actually start telling it? What if he'd be touched by God one time and just do a complete flip? And, people would listen. All these people that were brainwashed, we need people that are over on that side that have flipped and they need to convince them people now. We're in this time. Those protesters down there like that, they need some of their own kind saying, hey, this is wrong. This is wrong. You've been, So anyway, we're going to get it solved, everybody. Keep the faith, everybody. God bless you, Brandon. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Mike. Mike Lindell checking in tonight. MikeLindellGov.com. And we'll be right back.
To assemble, simply connect the mop spray attachment to the handle and the base. When it clicks into place, that means it's secured. Next, remove the reservoir, fill it with tap water, then pop it back in. Adjust the mop handle to your height and add your Norwex wet mop pad. It's best to start with the damp pad. That's it. We're ready to go. When you need a fresh mist, angle the handle straight up to 90 degrees and push down to deliver the perfect spray of water. Mop smart with Norwex.
Let's get a financial update from Professor of Economics and attorney Dan Eastman. He's each and every day heard right here on Worldview Tube. Dan, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Brandon, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure. Absolutely.
Thank you, my friend. All right, what's the latest? You sent me an update the other day, sounded kind of urgent. I thought, well, let's bring you on to inform our audience about this.
Well, it's an issue that's rolling around. Of course, we all know about the great $9 billion scam in Minnesota. And we got to analyzing that scam and got to thinking about it. And what we've realized is that you're seeing news stories that $130 million or $190 million or $700 million, millions of dollars in cash are being loaded up into suitcases and shipped overseas. And of course, that raises the eyebrow, because that's a whole lot of money that came from the federal treasury through the state of Minnesota into probably county programs as they're administered. And then it gets down to allegedly the recipients of this generosity, which somehow ends up in a suitcase. But when you start to think about—
just step right there for those who may not know. Yeah. There are reports that suitcases full of like $1 million were routinely shipped in suitcases through the Minneapolis airport, right?
Right. I've seen reports of hundreds of millions of dollars in cash.
And where were they going with the money?
Offshore. They're being shipped away offshore. I would assume Somalia or wherever the destination is. But
the authorities were turning a blind eye. I mean, they knew what was in those suitcases, right?
Well, when you fly internationally, you have to declare if you're carrying more than $10,000 in cash. Now, I'm not sure if that's just for U.S. citizens, the pigeons here, or if that's for everyone flying, but you're supposed to be declaring if you take more than $10,000 in cash with you offshore. And that's been for years. That rule's been in place for years. Anyone who's traveled to the Caribbean or Mexico for vacation or wherever, Europe, you're supposed to be declaring that. And $10,000 is not a lot of cash. $1 million in a suitcase is a lot of cash. But the point is, the bigger issue is we want to step back and take a look at the fundamentals as to how exactly federal money works. And when you think about it, the Congress will pass a bill, let's say enabling this Medicaid thing in Minnesota. President, whoever that happens to be, will sign it into law, and that becomes the law. And then the United States Treasury, their job is to fund the specific agency with federal dollars to fund that program at the federal level. And of course, the federal Treasury gets the money from the taxpayers, the 165 million individual taxpayers and corporations, and they pay $5 trillion into the Internal Revenue Service, which is a department of the Treasury. So in comes the money. Okay, and that comes in the form of checks, and it comes in the form of direct withdrawal from your checking account or your paycheck, whatever. All of the federal money is digital money. It is not Federal Reserve notes. It's very important to understand when you read these news stories that these green things that you can sometimes get unless there's an SAR report filed by the banker who gave it to you because they're suspicious. This is not money. Money is a digital construct that is created by the Federal Reserve, and it funds our system. So all of the federal dollars are digital dollars. And when Congress approves and the president signs into law a bill that authorizes a federal agency to send money to Minnesota or any state, there aren't trainloads of these crossing the fruited plains to Minnesota. There's a click of a button and the federal funds transfer electronically to the state of Minnesota. And the state of Minnesota or Wisconsin or whichever state will allocate that probably to a county agency that handles Medicaid, and that money gets distributed to the suppliers of medical services and this and that, and the daycares and whatever. All of that money is digital, from the federal government to the state, from the state to the county, from the county to the provider. Nobody is showing up with truckloads of these, handing and paying the daycare center. It's all digital money, okay? So the question came up, this was on my show 2 days ago, and it's a really good question to ask, is how do you get from the digital money to these paper things that you can stuff in a suitcase and fly off to Africa with? And that's the crux of the problem. There is an intermediary that turns digital money into these things. Now, if you're an individual and you go to the bank and you want to take out $10,000 because maybe you want to pay cash for a used car or something, that raises suspicions. And the bankers, and these are the tellers, these are the people on the front lines of retail banking, have an obligation under federal law to fill out a suspicious activity report, SAR. And of course, they're trained in their banker training programs that if somebody looks suspicious, well, you better fill one of these forms out and report them because it might be a terrorist or a bad guy or something, even though it's just you trying to take 10 grand out to buy a car. This is the normal course. It is not easy to get $10,000 out of a bank. And if you run a business, a small business, when you open a checking account, one of the very first things they ask you is how much cash are you going to be doing on a yearly basis? We want to know, are you like a tavern or some sort of an entertainment venue that would have cash, people would pay cash, and you're going to have hundreds of thousands in cash? Or are you like most businesses that are taking money digitally through credit cards, debit cards, pay by your cell phone, whatever? The point is they watch cash very, very carefully for the American public because it's exactly the problem of fungibility of cash. This $100 bill is as good in Texas as it is in New England. And the point is, when you get these things, you have the ability to spend them and to derive value. So my point is, it is very difficult to get cash, and it's very difficult to get $1 million in cash, and it's even more difficult to get $190 million or whatever the numbers are, because I think a lot of the news reporters don't grasp the idea that there are digital dollars. Dollars are digital. The Federal Reserve creates digital money, and they also authorize the printing of these and the minting of coins. Now, who prints these and who mints the coins? Well, that's the Bureau of Engraving and the U.S. Mint, which is part of the Department of the Treasury. But the Treasury doesn't make money that is unauthorized by the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve will say, hey, print up 200 billion of these, and lo and behold, you can go and tour this in Washington. It's kind of cool. You go upstairs, there's 4-inch thick bulletproof glass, and you watch the guy printing big sheets of money, and then they chop it up into these little bills. But the point is, it's not easy to get to get paper cash. Now, there are 3 places where you can get large quantities of digital cash. Number one, I guess at the Bureau of Engraving, if you stood out in the back door and maybe they throw the rejects in the dumpster, which they don't. But the point is, that's one place because that's where they make the money. The other place is at the banking system. And if you think about what does the federal printing, the engraving bureau do with the sheets of dollars that they create? They distribute it to the banks, and that's according to the Federal Reserve's order, because banks will have a certain amount of cash. They call it vault cash. Back in the olden days, people would come in with cash and they would draw cash. Well, today, sometimes people want cash. Businesses might need cash. If you have a cash-driven business, but it's a hassle for all the banks. As a matter of fact, a lot of banks don't like dealing with cash because you have to have human labor counting this stuff, each and every one, putting it in a bundle. The point is, cash in our economy is less and less and less relevant. Yet we're hearing these news stories of cash. How do federal dollars, which are digital, go from the federal government to the state government to the county government to the provider, and then suddenly show up in cash, stuffed in a suitcase and flown off? That's the question. The other place
which I think where you're going with this, that means then we have had federal government officials at some level involved in this fraud, not just state officials knowing about it, but you obviously had to have federal officials that were aware of this.
Yeah, and banking officials. In order to get that kind of cash, you have to be able to go to a bank and get the cash out. Now, it gets worse. It gets worse. There is a lot of cash circulating in the U.S. economy and the global economy, dollar bills that are circulating in the common market or the human market. And of course, some of us I'll buy a lawnmower from my neighbor for $50. I'll give him $50 cash and I'll get the lawnmower. And of course, that's legitimate currency. That's up until the digital days here. That's how money worked. People just have money in the shoebox or the cookie jar. There's also vast amounts of money, of course, in the illegal drug industry. I mean, most drugs deals are done with cash because it's anonymous. That's the beauty of cash. The government won't know if you buy your neighbor's lawnmower, and they won't know if you're buying illegal substances. So there's that giant pool of cash, and then there's the cash in the bank that the banks use for liquidity within the neighborhoods to give businesses liquidity. And then there's the federal printing press. That's where the three big piles of cash are. It's either there's actually a fourth. If you think about the casino business, that's another big place where cash shows up. So the question is, how do you get the federal dollars for welfare into Minnesota, into the counties, into these alleged agencies, and then turn them into cash? And the only logical conclusion is there are intermediaries that are doing this. And I noticed that Secretary Bessent is launching a great big investigation into the banks and others. And that's exactly the right thing to do, because somebody is turning welfare dollars into enough liquid cash that can be shipped offshore in the millions or tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. And that's the question. This is being enabled by big players. This isn't just, when we look at the food stamp problem, you can go to the little bodega or the little store, the neighborhood corner store, and, maybe there's some, fraud going on where you turn in the food stamps and they'll give you cash. Well, you get a little cash and the merchant makes, the spread. That isn't $190 million. That's not $700 million. So who is enabling the conversion of digital money to cash in a day and age where, Brannon, if you and I went to the bank, actually, I know somebody in my town who wanted $25,000 in cash to buy kind of a hot collector sports car. And the bank said, fine, no problem. You have it in your digital account, but you have to come back tomorrow because we have to get it from Chicago shipped up here because we don't have $25,000 in cash. I mean, it's not, the bank hasn't failed. Everything's fine, but we have to get the physical cash from somebody else, from another bank, in order to satisfy your request for deposit. And he's kind of miffed because he's got to wait 24 hours for his cash. That's how hard it is to get 25 grand in cash. So when you start talking about stuffing millions of dollars of these things into suitcases, there is somebody there converting digital money into these all day long. And they're not running all over the banks trying to clean out every bank because that would raise eyebrows. So I think Secretary Bessent's investigation is well worth watching, because what you're going to find is there are some big enabling cash holding players that are behind the scenes that are funding the liquidity. It's just like, if you remember back in the nightmare of the Obama era, there was that news story where there was this pallet of, I guess it was $100 bills. They only mint or print $1, $2, $5, $10, $20, $50, and $100. That's it. You got 6 different currencies that they print. So there's this pallet of supposed to be $1 billion on a pallet that they shipped over to Iran. the question I asked back then is, where in the world do you get $1 billion worth of these things? Well, you can print it up at the Bureau of Engraving, or you can get it within a very large banking system. But even then, I would assume for $1 billion in these, even Chase and the big banks are going to have to scramble around town. I mean, trying to scrape up $1 billion, that's a lot of money. So the bigger question is, we look at this fraud, this big, international fraud scandal of federal dollars and $9 billion with a B being wasted in fraud. And if half of that money is shipped offshore and it looks like this can only be done with very large enablers who are sitting on piles and piles of cash. The printer, the banking system, and God forbid, maybe the illegal drug industry. Who is involved in that conversion? Can you do that? Can you take an electronic dollar with a haircut and then, maybe take 20% off the top to provide these things out of your stash? This is a problem, because it's not just some guy from Somalia comes over and rips off the system. This is very well orchestrated and very, very well strategized. There are guys on Wall Street who couldn't figure out how to do this. People with MBAs, economists, you'd have to sit there and scratch your head and think, how do I collect $1 billion of these things when all our money is digital? This is not normal. This is not normal. And that's the point we're trying to make. The Eastman Financial Report is, you know what? You have to look deeper than the headline story. And that's the point of this, the whole story. It's who's doing it and why? Well, we know why. They're stealing it. The question is, how did they get away with it for so long? And with the regulatory scheme, and I spent a lot of time as a state securities regulator. I worked at the SEC back when I was a law student. Financial regulation is very, very tight. And people play by the rules on Wall Street and in the banking industry, the insurance industry, because you don't want to lose your license. That's your livelihood. And by and large, even though it's kind of the Wild West, the players in that space follow the rules because they know the risk. Well, somebody's not playing by the rules here. And that's the question we have to be asking nationally.
So let me ask you, who do you think is involved in this then? Obviously some people at the federal level are involved, right?
They don't know. That's why it needs to be investigated. It would be impossible for me to imagine the Bureau of Engraving printing up, 190 million extra of these. They're not doing that. They're just not doing that. And the same thing with the banking industry. When you look at the SARS reports and how they're scrutinizing the little merchant on Main Street because he took in a little too much cash last week, it would stretch the imagination that a regulated industry like banking would be involved in some international scam ripping off the federal treasury. CEOs and CFOs would be losing their jobs by the dozens. I don't see that. Now, maybe it happened, but I don't see it. So the question is, who is the converting agent? And that's where this gets dark real fast.
And you're going to keep us posted on that, right? You're going to keep tracking this?
I am. We're on this story, and we're looking at it. And
this is one of the biggest stories in the country that's not being covered.
Well, that's why you should watch the Eastman Financial Report. You learn something new here.
And that's every day, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m.
11:30.
11:30. I always get that wrong. Why do I want to say 11? Let's move him to 11. 11:30 Central, 12:30 Eastern, every Monday through Friday. WorldviewTube.com, WorldviewTube.com. Excellent report. Keep us posted, Professor.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
That is his website, by the way, ProfessorEastman.com, ProfessorEastman.com. We'll be right back.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies Cat's Claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisol collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
All right, guys, I also recorded this yesterday. I was pretty busy yesterday with Brett with Worldview Talk related to all the cell tower outages yesterday. Watch this. Joining me now is Brett with worldviewtalk.com. Hey, did you guys see a bunch of the cell towers went down yesterday? Well, that's why we keep telling you need to have backup communications. And joining me now is Brett. Brett, what happened? This is becoming like every 6 or 7, 8 weeks this starts to happen. This is becoming more and more regular. Why?
I mean, you name it, that's the reason they're going to give you. But this time they haven't given you a reason. They just said, hey, 160,000 people, SOL. And that included a lot of people I work with, and it's just a constant reminder, that it's what we're in the business of doing, is giving people backups. If you lose your main source of communication, your main source of power, your main source of water, just like losing your main source of income, you're SOL. And that's what we saw. 150, 160,000. I think we're probably closer to 200,000 since this was, about a day and a half ago yesterday. So, just another reminder, we're here to help you get prepared, be prepared. You never know. You never know what's going to happen, where it's going to happen, or when. So, that's our business.
Yep.
Sat123.com. Come check us out. Yeah.
Worldviewtalk.com is a website we prefer, though, so we can track it. Worldviewtalk.com.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Sorry about that.
Worldviewtalk.com. Because we get paid for every order. So
that's
folks,
right. Please. Yes. Do Worldview Talk. I apologize.
No, that's all right. We'll let you do that just one time.
Okay.
Just kidding. Communication is so important. I don't know what you do, but in my line of work, and with the threats I have, and we have the whole family pretty much works for this organization. I tell my family and even my young guys in the control room, I tell them, I want you to keep your phone on 24/7. I need to be able to reach you. I do not need you going out of pocket, okay? Because when I can't get a hold of somebody, particularly a family member, I start to freak out. Why can I not reach them? Is there a problem, right? So you don't have to be someone that, is concerned about your security per se to want to not lose your communication. But if you are a husband and your wife is going out of town and she's driving to her parents' house with your kids in the car, do you want to lose contact with your wife for a couple hours? I wouldn't. Because I'm starting to think, do I need to get in the car and start going her direction to make sure she's not on the side of the road or something's happened? So you don't have to have, the threats that we get to make you keep your communication open and talking to your team regularly. You just can be someone who has a wife and children and says, there's no way I want my wife going out of the house or gone all day shopping and I can't reach her. I think about that. When I was married in 91 and I used to travel all over the country, fly to Oregon, California, Washington State, Washington, D.C., I would go all day long without being able to reach my wife until she got home at night from her job at the hospital. Then I'd be able to talk to her. I guess I could call the hospital and they could have paged her. But I think about that now, how we didn't really know better. We didn't have any other option. But can you think of the vulnerability of knowing I cannot really get a hold of my wife until tonight? Unless, of course, I know her work number and I call her there. But if she's out running an errand, going to the grocery store, has something I can't reach her. If she's not by a phone she can pick up, I can't reach her. I mean, that is, right. I don't like that. And I would think most families need to be thinking about this in this area. Because if the power grid goes down, if we go to war, if there's even a solar flare that takes down the power grid, do you want to not be able to reach your student at college, your wife who's gone out of town, or you've gone out of town and she's trying to reach you, or you're trying to reach your senior adult parents, I'm telling you, I don't want to be in that position. And I know my sister, my parents, they all have these. And we all have each other's phone numbers. Because I don't want to go 2, 3, 4, 5 hours or 2, 3, 4, 5 days without knowing, is everybody okay? So to me, it's peace of mind. Plus, I got into a cell area not last summer, but the summer before. I had zero cell coverage for the whole weekend. Virtually, maybe 1 or 2%. I could not keep a call. I had to go to this for the weekend. That's all. That's my pitch.
I mean, your pitch is that's the pitch. The pitch is, just don't be able to connect with your family, your friends, your loved ones. I mean, and this is 160, 200,000 Americans that are now waiting patiently or impatiently for the phone company to turn it back on. Now, we all assume it's going to go back on, but what if it doesn't? I mean, what if it doesn't for a week? How long till that chaos kicks off? How long? And you got the phone there, the satellite phone looked like the Iridium phone that you had, the 9555 looks like. Mm-hmm. We got Bivy sticks too. We got family plans on Bivy sticks. This will connect to your phone. There you go. This will connect to your phone, and it's a texting device. So you can set up a family plan with this, give one to all the members. It's about the size of a Snickers bar, if you can't tell. My little satellite Snickers. Throw it in your glove box, give it to your daughter, give it to your son, give it to your wife. Things go down, you just pull it out, hit the Bluetooth, and now you can at least communicate. I mean, knowing where your loved ones are, especially in an emergency. I mean, especially, not just like normally. This isn't like the pioneer days where, hey, I'll see you in 8 months. I'm going to take a wagon to Oklahoma and back, right? No, I mean, we talk to people every 5 minutes. You want to know, how you doing, baby? What's for lunch? What's for dinner? I mean, we do that with our kids. We do that with our families, our grandparents. Being able to be in touch with the ones you love, it's priceless. It truly is.
Having a family plan. Remember on 9/11, they couldn't even, a lot of the first responders couldn't communicate.
That's right.
People are having trouble talking on cell phones, much less the communication systems. I'm telling you, if there's a natural disaster, some of those lines will be down and the ones that aren't will be clogged. And you could be going hours trying to reach your family member to find out where they're at and where we should be meeting up. Or you can just have, as you said, a satellite phone or the Bivy that they keep in their glove compartment or in their purse or their briefcase. And now you're using your cell phone just to compose the text, and then you send it with Bluetooth from the phone to this Bivy, to the satellite, down to their satellite phone or their Bivy. At least you're keeping communications open, and you're able to check on each other or say, yes, this is where we're going to meet up. We're going to get here. I'll see you there. Communication is crucial in any emergency. And I don't care. Your family is the most important thing. Everything else is probably insured, but you can replace things. But keeping your family safe, particularly in a crisis, is it's priceless. So I travel with them. I keep them with me. It's the real deal. Let me ask you real quick. The generator. I have the Delta Echo 400 solar generator. Tell me about that one.
Yep. Yeah, that one's great. I mean, it'll power a refrigerator for, I think, like 3 days on one charge. But the beauty of a solar generator is that you're not necessarily just charging it up and using it once. You're using it in between, depending on how long the emergency is, you're using it when the sun is not shining on the essentials. So if it's like a heat blanket or it's a pot to boil water or it's, a blender to mix up, some baby formula or whatever it is that you need to do, that's what the solar generator is there to do. It's not necessarily, it could run your house now, not for a long period of time if you needed, because it's quite a big pool, but you're talking about running it intermittently when the sun is shining. You just take that panel outside, put it outside the window, run the cord through the window, generators inside if you want, or leave the generator outside too. And then you always have backup power, like you said, when the problem happens, that's when the problem's happening. I mean, it's too late then. You're not going to be able to call your daughter, and you're not going to be able to track your mom, or you're not going to be able to boil that hot water or do whatever you need to do. Keep your medicine cold in the refrigerator. I know some people have like insulin and things like this that have to stay cool. You're not going to be able to do that. When the power's out, the power's out. And now you're on your own. And we live in a beautiful, amazing country, and we live like kings, better than kings, throughout all of history, just at our fingertips. And I just want to really drive home to people not to take that for granted. Because at any time, and we just saw it yesterday, 200,000 people now can't call the ones they love. With the power goes out, we saw it in North Carolina, fire, flood, Lahaina, fire, flood, Palisades, fire, flood, hurricanes, tornadoes, Florida. Look, I mean, you name it. I mean, how long do you have to wait till your town is the town that's on the map? And then are you going to be the one that says, thank the Lord that I did this ahead of time? Or shoot, I'm SOL and now I got to figure this out, right? It's one or the other. So
now I can't find my wife or my kids.
Right, darn, I misplaced my family because I didn't think ahead. But you're right, exactly.
Worldviewtalk.com. Here it is. All of it's there. The bulletproof backpack, the Starlinks that are portable, the solar generators, and as I said, the bulletproof backpack, and so much more. Worldviewtalk.com. Worldviewtalk.com. The communication is going down yesterday. A perfect example of what we're talking about. Brett, thank you for the update.
God bless you, sir. Thank you for all you do.
All right, guys, that's our broadcast for tonight. As always, thank you for tuning in and supporting the broadcast. Hope you'll tune in for my study on the book of Daniel, lesson 2, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern at worldviewtube.com. All right, roll the music. Let's call it a night. Hey, thanks again, guys, for so much support. You guys are great. Your kind emails, your handwritten letters. Thank you to those of you who are financially supporting us. Thank you to those that are supporting us by prayer, by kind words and emails. Thank you for those that are supporting us by telling others about our network. Thank you for all this support in its various forms. And again, we do need your support. We are a listener-supported network. Worldviewtube.com is where you'll find all the free programs. And of course, you can support it through worldviewfoundation.com. So next time, I'm Brannon Howse. May God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon Howse.
And welcome. Glad you are with us. We're going to be joined by Annie Cyrus, Andy Woods, Sharam Hadian. They're all joining us right now. Did you see who I interviewed last night? I interviewed a young man by the name of Ray. He lives in Germany, and he was and I guess we're going to put this on the Facebook page of Annie, too, at the same time, guys. He was a MEK fighter for 18 years. He spent the first year of his life in a prison in Iran as his mother and father were arrested. And he spent the first year of his life in a horrific prison. And his story is absolutely stunning. How did we find him, Logan? You just found him on X. He searched MEK, found him on X in Germany. We reached out to him. He responded immediately, and he was on last night for close to an hour. His story is something that should be a book, a documentary, a movie. And what's ironic is that he now is helping us as Americans understand the dangers of groups like MEK, this Marxist Islamist group that is basically, I think, just completely implanted themselves inside the Republican Party, the GOP, the America First crowd. It's shocking because he brought us his personal story, and it is heartbreaking. He finds out, and this is